Hey, my name is Jessica Heap, and I will be helping you understand a little more about Childcare Strong monthly reports. But before we hop into the report, I'd like to help you understand a little more about the monthly schedule. So as most of you know, on the 20th of each month, you will receive your monthly award amount. You have from the 20th of that month to the end of the following month to spend those funds. On the first of the month following the month you had to spend the funds, you will receive an email prompting you to complete a report. That report will be due by the 10th of the month you received the email. Remember, all future payments will be paused until that report is complete. Here's an example. As you see, you will receive your funds on April 20th. You have from April 20th to May 31st to spend your funds. On June 1st, you will receive the email prompting you to complete the report. You have from June 1st until June 10th to complete that report. Now, let's dive into the report. On the screen is an example of the email you will receive prompting you to complete the monthly report. Please read that email closely as there's information on what is required for this report. You will also see a link prompting you to complete the report. Click the link. At the beginning of the report, there will be a few questions about your facility. The first one is the provider name. Now this one can be a little confusing. Let me explain. If you are a CCPS provider, you will put your provider name. If you are a licensed facility, you will put your facility name exactly as it is on your license. Second is your provider email. This is the same email that you use for licensing or for CCPS, which is the same email you used when you applied for Childcare Strong. Third is your facility's physical address. Fourth is your license or registration number. If you are a licensed facility, place your full license number exactly as it is on your license. If you are a CCPS provider, place your provider ID. Fourth is the report submission date. It's simply that. It's the date you submitted this report. And lastly, your award amount. This is the monthly award amount you received on the 20th for Childcare Strong. Let's hop into the expenses. As you can see, there are 6 expense columns. There is a place for all expenses used during the month in these 6 expense columns. Be sure to check the website for Childcare Strong for any expense allowances. Now, let's look at the expense columns. The first one is personnel cost. This is any expenses used for staff pay, for bonuses, for employee recruitment. Anything to do with staff pay goes in the personnel cost. Second is mortgage, rent, utilities, improvements, or insurance. These are any expenses used to pay for your overhead in your facility, such as mortgage, rent, utilities, maintenance costs, insurance, or even improvements made on maybe the playground or the bathrooms or the building. Third is your PPE, sanitation, services, training, and health and safety. These are any expenses used for staff training or personal development related to health and safety practices or supplies. There is a list provided on the MDHS website for any PPE. Fourth is equipment and supplies. These are any expenses used for equipment or supply purchases made to respond to COVID-19. Check the website for those expense allowances. Fifth is goods and services. These are any expenses used for goods or materials necessary to provide child care services. This could be groceries, classroom supplies, or even licensing fees. And sixth, mental health support for children or staff. These are any expenses used for mental health consultation services for staff or children, and may include fees associated with providing education for families and staff related to infant and early childhood mental health. Please check your website for those expense allowances. After you've completed your expenses for the month, you will be prompted to answer any questions about a reduction in monthly award amount. The first column is a drop-down menu, and this is simply to answer if you need a reduction in the monthly award amount. You will click yes or no. If you selected no, you will not be prompted to complete this section, which is the reduced amount requested. If you selected yes, please place the desired reduced monthly award amount. Now that you've completed your expense columns and your reduced monthly amount, you will be asked to complete your total expended and your funds not used for the month. Let's talk about these three columns. The first is your total expended. This is simply the sum of all expenses provided in the 6 expense categories. Please be sure that this number adds to exactly what you've put in those 6 expense columns. If you have overspent, that's okay. Put that number there. You can explain that in the summary. We'll talk about that in a minute. Next is a drop-down menu, and it simply asks if all the monthly funds were used. You select yes or no. And lastly, the funds not used for the month. This is the difference of the total expended amount and your monthly award amount. I'd also like to add that your total expended section and your funds not used section are only for the month you are completing the report for. There should be no money left from previous months that are added to either of these two sections. Here's the summary we talked about earlier. All this is a detailed description of expenses for the month. Please do not put any numbers in this section, just put details. This is also a really good place to explain if you overspent, such as if you had money left from the previous month and you used it during this month. Next is a drop-down menu asking if you did any renovations to your facility. Simply select yes or no. You'll put a detailed summary in this section, description of renovations and improvements. If you selected no in the previous section, you will not be prompted to complete this section. If you selected yes, stick the summary in there. Please do not put any numbers in this section either, just details. And lastly, the attestations. These are simply agreements and understandings that will need to be answered. You'll have a drop-down menu to select yes or no. And of course, if you have any questions on reporting or funding, you can email us at childcarestrong@mdhs.ms.gov.